Hey, it's Melanie. Welcome back to Lonesome Maker Homestead. Today we are going to work on some chocolate sourdough cupcakes. First things first, we need to make sure that our starter is well fed. That's exactly what you see me here doing. I do not measure per se in grams or really cups when it comes to feeding my starter. I like a particular type of mixture, and my sourdough starter is usually thick. So as you can see, I'm adding my flour here, and once I start to add my water to this, I'll add a little bit at a time so I can get the consistency that I like. I do go ahead and start mixing that flour in with my starter before I start adding that water in, just to go ahead and start getting it incorporated. And again, I'm just going a little bit at a time with the water. I usually end up with some extra and I just pour it out into the sink. And as you can see here, it is thick. So that is what I choose to do. That is my preference. I know a lot of people talk about that you want it as pancakey, but in my experience, when you have a starter that's a little bit thicker, it rises better. And as you can see here, it is very much alive and active. This is about 12 hours after it was fed. Now that we have our fed starter, we are going to go ahead and start with our chocolate cake batter. Now, this is just going to be the beginning of it. I'm going to let this sit after it's done. And the recipe that I have, it will do 12 cupcakes, but I did go ahead and double this because we were doing it for our son's birthday party. So we had 24 cupcakes, and I'll list the 12 cupcake recipe down below. For your 12 cupcake recipe, you're going to do 1 cup of starter. Obviously, I'm doubling, so I do 2, 1 cup of flour, and 1 cup of milk. Now, if you want this to be dairy-free, which is what we prefer for our eldest son, who has some issues with dairy, we did use almond milk. We just use Great Value almond milk. That totally works fine with us. We're not big on super fancy and expensive things, especially in today's economy, so Great Value works just fine. Here I'm showing you exactly how much starter I have left in that jar that I'll end up feeding. I know a lot of people end up with a ton of starter left over. I just make enough for what I need to keep and what I need to bake, so I don't end up with gallons of discard. And I do see a lot of people do that, and if that's their preference, that's totally fine, but I do not want to have a lot of waste. I'm just mixing my starter and my milk together just to go ahead and start getting that incorporated before I add my flour. Again, I'm making a double batch in the video, but for the recipe, it is going to be 1 cup of flour. I just have a half cup using right there because all of mine were dirty at the time of making this. And again, I will link this recipe below. We're going to go ahead and get everything mixed together. This is going to be what you want to either sit out on the counter, right, and you can also put this in the fridge if you're just wanting to bake it the next day, which is my preference because we have kids and like a micro farm going over here. So I'm just going to put plastic wrap over this and put it in the fridge. No big deal if you let it sit longer than 24 hours. Oftentimes I do that when it comes to baking things like this, because you still will put things like baking soda in it. So not a big deal if it goes over 24 hours. You're still going to get all that great nutritional value of your sourdough, but you're letting yourself do it on your time. I think I let this sit for about 30 hours. And as you can see, my batter is thick. It is fine. It's thick, but it still has some looseness to it, very much like a pancake batter. To this, we are going to add 1.5 cups of sugar. We are using stevia, so if you're looking for something that is a little bit better on the healthier base and not just using actual sugar, we do have a lot of diabetics in our family, which, any type of sugar is not great, but, stevia is better. Once we have that, and we're just going to go ahead and continue mixing this. I kind of like to mix things as we go. And what you do see me add to this was the 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda. I poured it in a little bowl just to make sure there's no little chunks of it in there, just to break it up. And then our oil, which is 1 cup of oil, as well as our 2 teaspoons of vanilla that I'm going to add to this as well. Right here we see our little birthday boy who has found a stick today. Was out looking at property with my mother-in-law today, and this stick just had to come home with us, and he's super excited to show everybody that stick. We're going to go ahead and add our cocoa, which is 3/4 a cup of cocoa. I'm going to mix that in really well, and I do recommend kind of sifting this because, as you can see, it kind of came out in chunks on me, so I definitely don't recommend doing exactly what I did here, but we're learning together, so that's totally fine. I would definitely, like I said, sift that in. These are our farm fresh eggs that we had got that morning, and we use 2 eggs for this. Again, I'm doubling up, so you'll see me add 4 in. After you get your eggs in, you're just going to beat them in really, really well. I feel like 90% of my video is me mixing. This is hilarious. I tried to show you the batter, and obviously it just dumped out, which I thought was so funny. My husband can actually see me from the living room, and he is laughing. I'm laughing. I'm trying to explain to him what I did, and it's just so funny. But if we can't laugh at ourselves, what are we really doing? Yeah, I thought it was funny, so we might as well keep it in there because I am human, I am learning, and we all make mistakes. And who needs, just a little bit of humor in their day? So now we are going to go ahead and pour all of our batter into our cupcakes, or I do have cupcake liners in there. Pouring this cupcake batter in here has been so easy with this bowl. My mother-in-law gifted it to me. It was part of my Christmas present from her and my father-in-law, and I use it multiple times a week. It's just wonderful. Look how easy this is, and it's not overly heavy. I think that she said she got it from Home Goods if you're interested, but I just adore it. We are putting our cupcakes into a 350-degree oven, and it should be between 30 and 40 minutes. I think I checked them at 30 minutes and ended up putting them back in for another 5 minutes, and then they were done after that. This recipe is super easy to follow, and if you're a working mom, you're just a busy mom, and you don't have time just to do everything in one day, you don't have to. And I think that's the beauty of this, is you don't have to do everything in one day. And I actually baked this the night before his birthday party, which worked out so well. Now we're going to go ahead and start with our icing. We have 1 stick of melted butter, 4 tablespoons of cocoa, 6 tablespoons of milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then you're going to put in powdered sugar, but this is going to be towards your thickness, like how thick you want your icing to be. And if you want like a runnier icing, like you kind of want it to run down your cupcake, I know like that melted icing look is really popular right now, you're just going to put less powdered sugar in this. I am making this again the night before his birthday party because I can just ice this, all of his cupcakes the morning of, and it just makes it so much easier. I'm a preparer, but I don't like to do everything all in the same day. So what I'm doing here is adding it to this bag. Actually, I had filled up this one icing bag, but not realized that it had a nick in the bag. So I'm just transferring it over. But I do have a mason jar here that just kind of helps hold up my icing bag. And I will end up tying these off and just kind of refrigerating them until I'm ready to ice the next morning. And my sister-in-law ended up helping me the next day get all this prepared and iced, which was super helpful. And once we have all these tied off and I put them in the fridge, like I said, all you have to do is cut that little plastic tip off and you will be ready to ice your cupcakes. This is our final result of our chocolate sourdough cupcakes. Everyone thought they were delicious, and if you do too, like, share, subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy homesteading. Now, if you don't actually have any rubber bands on hand, I mean, you can use, a clean hair tie to tie off this, or how I save all my rubber bands that our vegetables come in, like asparagus. They're always wrapped in those rubber bands. I actually save those for random things like this. I do know these bags are over full, but totally works out just fine. Kind of use it. It's not really a rule that you can't fill it all the way up. So I just filled it all the way up, used all that icing into those bags, and it will store until I am ready to use it.